So, we are starting in a bit of an unusual way with an episode 0. Since in order to have proper context of what is happening at the time of the creation of Digimon, we first need to understand how its predecessor, the Tamagotchi, was created, as several concepts and key players in the franchise come from it. The idea of the Tamagotchi was conceived by Akihiro Yokoi, who was at the time the president and founder of Wiz Limited, a toy company established in 1986 that specialized on LCD toys. According to him, he came up with the concept of an electronic portable virtual pet after seeing a TV commercial that showed a boy who wanted to take his pet turtle with him on a trip, and his mother scolded him and told him to leave it at home. That inspired him to come up with the concept of a portable electronic pet that you would be able to take anywhere you wanted. Unfortunately, I tried to find what the ad had been for, or maybe even footage of it, but it seems that it's probably just lost media at this point, unfortunately. At first, he tried to pitch his idea among his colleagues at Wiz, who discouraged him. But still convinced of its potential, he took his idea to Bandai, who was at the time trying to bring in the market of electronic toys for high school girls, which they recognized as an undermarket demographic in the sales of electronic toys which were primarily aimed at boys. As Yokoi had worked for Bandai before founding Wiz, he had contacts with him, so he managed to convince Takeshi Hongo and Ayumu Hiromura of the idea, who then tried to sell it internally within Bandai. As small LCD handheld games such as Tetris are popular at the time, it was felt at the time for such a product, such as the Tamagotchi, to be very good. And the goal was not only to make a game, but to make it so one could wear it as an accessory. As such, there was a big focus on making it cute or kawaii. The word Tamagotchi is a portmanteau of the two Japanese words tamago, which means egg, and watch, which is just a transliteration of the word watch. This is more clear in the original intended design that we can see, which was to be a wristwatch. After going after a few redesigns, the final design is still supposed to look like a kind of watch, but in this case a pocket watch. And I must say, I think they succeeded more on the egg part than the watch part. And then, on October 10, 1996, Bandai started selling a test release of the Tamagotchi in select stores. 200 prototype units are given out to high school girls in the Tokyo's Shibuya district for consumer tests. The girls are surveyed about the toy over several weeks, and the leader of this test marketing group was Akimata, one of the Tamagotchi developers. And, after all was said and done, the Tamagotchi finally had its full release on November 23, 1996 for 2,079 yen, or about $70, price sometimes varying between regions. The artwork was originally done by Yoko Korionagi, but after she was fired, she was replaced by Kenji Watanabe. Despite the Tamagotchi's initial success, Yokoi was at first not publicly credited as the creator of the Tamagotchi. Instead, Akimata was promoted as the face of the brand. This was most likely done to make the brand resonate more with the target demographic of high school girls. This would eventually lead to this Asia Week interview where they even attributed the Pet Turtle advertisement origin story to her. Yokoi would be later in July of 1997 be publicly credited as the creator of the Tamagotchi in a lecture by Bandai's chairman Makoto Yamashina. So, what are the Tamagotchi? Well, the Tamagotchi are an alien species that hail from the Tamagotchi planet. Yes, that is the Tamagotchi planet, which apparently is just a few million miles away from Earth. That's closer to Mars. But why are the Tamagotchis coming to Earth then? Well, the Tamagotchi lived peacefully on the planet until one fateful day a disgruntled Oyajit made the planet drink his bottle of sake, causing the planet to become drunk. Of course, this makes the planet uninhabitable, So the Tamagotchis flee aboard UFOs trying to find another planet to live on while waiting for their home to sober up. One night, Professor Banzo, owner of the Strange Biology Institute, was walking on a bridge over the Sumida River, after suffering from a broken heart. Suddenly, an UFO from space collided with him and knocked him into the river. He then brought the UFO to his lab, where he and his assistant, Mikasho, a 16-year-old high school girl, tended to the aliens inside. In order to allow the aliens to live on Earth safely, Benzo constructed Tamagotchi house, an egg-shaped device that allowed the Tamagotchi to be cared for, with a screen to be able to see the Tamagotchi inside, and simple controls. Mikasho began painting the shells of the devices in different colors and brought them to school with her, gaining the attention of her classmates. As more species of Tamagotchi are discovered, Banzo sent more of the device to research facilities in other parts of Japan and eventually across the world. Now, the owner of the Tamagotchi house is tasked with raising the Tamagotchi into a respectable member of society, which, to be honest, sounds more like being a parent than a pet owner. A bit weird that the first virtual pet is more about being a parent. Also, did Professor Banzo just decided that random humans should be now serve as parents for the Tamagotchi? Did Tamagotchi get a say on this? Like, this is a bit weird. But that's probably just me overthinking it. But how did they implement this as a game? The Tamagotchi device is equipped with one small monochrome screen of 32 by 16 pixels, where you can see what your Tamagotchi is doing. Beyond the LCD screen, there are two rows of LCD icons, above and below, which serve as the menu options of the actions that you can take with your Tamagotchi. Behind the screen, to give some color, is a printed sheet of cardboard, and around the screen we can see a crack shell pattern to make it look like it's an egg that's cracking. On top of the Tamagotchi, there's a holder for a keychain, which is typically used for a ball and chain. It's supposedly also there to make it look a bit more like a pocket watch, which I already said that I really don't see it. And I really must say that the egg team really comes across much stronger than the watch team in here. To interact with Tamagotchi, there's 3 buttons, a button to switch between menu options, a cancel button, and a button to accept the selected option. But now let's get to the gameplay. Following the egg team, the Tamagotchis are hatched from eggs, which appear when you first start the device. After hatching from the egg, the Tamagotchi changes appearance several times before reaching its adult form, and evolving into a new character each time. Interestingly, the name of almost all Tamagotchi characters end with a T. There are 4 main stages that the Tamagotchi will go throughout its life: baby, child, teenager, and adult. There is also an extra one that's reserved for a special character. And yes, it is Oyadichi. It takes about 5 minutes for it to hatch, and after hatching into a baby, it evolves into a child at 5 minutes, then into a teen at age 3 and into adult at age 6. 1 day on Earth is also equal to 1 year on the Tamagotchi. Keep this in mind for later. You can guide the development of your Tamagotchi by performing certain actions. Performing or failing to perform those actions, you'll incur into a care mistake. Tending to your Tamagotchi needs in a timely manner is considered good care. In other words, the less care mistakes you have, the better the care is considered for your Tamagotchi. Good care can, for example, lead to Mamet, an inventor Tamagotchi with an IQ of 250. While bad care can lead to Tarakochi, who is naughty and selfish, and also has stinky feet, because that's one of the worst consequences of raising someone badly, is then having stinky feet. When the Tamagotchi is in need of care, the attention icon will light up and a chime will play. The owner then has 15 minutes to tend to the Tamagotchi. Otherwise, a care mistake will occur, except if it's a discipline call, but we'll get to that later. But now let's get to how to actually take care of your vpet. The meter option allows the user to check various statistics for the Tamagotchi. You can see its age measured in years. 1 year is the equivalent of 1 day on Earth, and also its weight measured in grams. It also, most importantly, allows you to check the hungry and happy meters, which represents how hungry and happy your Tamagotchi is. Filling those meters before they empty completely is good quality care, while allowing your Tamagotchi to get hungry or unhappy before filling them is bad care. The sooner the user responds to an empty heart, the better. There is also a discipline meter that fills each time that you successfully discipline it. Of course, since it's a watch, supposed also to be a watch, the Tamagotchi has a clock option that displays the time. The user must set the time before the Tamagotchi can hatch. Its relevance in-game is that it allows you to know when your Tamagotchi will evolve, because you know that it evolves at 6-5 minutes, then at age 3 and then age 6. It's also the only feature in the whole game that ties to it being a watch. Now let's get to the things that you do to the Tamagotchi. So you can feed the Tamagotchi both meals and snacks. Feeding either of them you feel the hunger, but feeding them snacks you also increase the happiness. But be careful, because feeding snacks often you make them sick. The meal is just a bowl of rice, while the snack is just a candy. You will incur a care mistake if you fail to feed them or if you overfeed them. Also, feeding them too many snacks you cause them for them to get sick. Of course, since they eat, they probably also need to poo, so over time, the Tamagotchi you poo and just leaves its deeds on the screen, and you're then tasked to clean it. Failing to clean the pool, you result in a care mistake. Also, leaving pool on the screen, you make them more likely to get sick. You know, just like real life. One can also turn off and on the lights. One should turn off the lights when the Tamagotchi is asleep. However, leaving the lights off while the Tamagotchi is awake will not incur a mistake. But as you can see, you just make it impossible for you to see if your Tamagotchi has pooed or if it's sick, because the whole screen will just be black. You can also play a game with the Tamagotchi, and being successful in this game you also raise its happiness. It's just a game of guessing which direction your Tamagotchi will look, if it's left or right, and if you get it right, you get 1 point, in which there are 5 rounds. If you get the majority right, that's at least 3 points, then its happiness will increase. Which is a nice way to symbolize new bonding with the Tamagotchi. Sometimes the Tamagotchi will get sick. In this case, you need to give it medicine. While it's sick, it will not play, you not eat. Also, a skull will appear on the top right, and I must say, I think the skull is a bit over the top, because when I first saw it, I didn't think, oh, my Tamagotchi is sick. I need to cure him. I thought, oh, my Tamagotchi sentenced to die. And I thought that there's nothing I could do with it, because it will not eat and not play. But no, he was sick. I think there's probably better ways to symbolize that they're sick besides just putting a skull. You can also scold the Tamagotchi when it misbehaves. Misbehave here means making a call when neither the happy nor hunger meter are empty, and responding to every discipline call is called quality care, while missing calls is bad care. Whenever you make a correct discipline call, that means you, instead of feeding them or playing with them, you just scold them, you feel the discipline bar. But making a mistaken discipline call, you also cause it to lose happiness, so you need to always keep checking if the happiness bar or hunger bar truly is empty when you're attending to those calls. Also, a Tamagotchi will only make exactly enough discipline calls during each evolution stage to completely fill its discipline bar. Meaning, if you miss a discipline call, you won't be able to get max discipline, which is necessary for some evolutions. And I must say that's like my least favorite part of the Tamagotchi care, because it just makes everything more cumbersome than it is, because every time Tamagotchi makes a call, that means that now you need to open the menu, go to the stats screen, scroll to the stats screen to go to the hunger and happy meters, check if they're empty, exit the stats screen, and then do what you need to do. It makes things a bit more cumbersome, because you're always on the risk of missing those discipline calls. If you accumulate too many care mistakes, the Tamagotchi will die. The Tamagotchi will also die of old age if its maximum lifespan, which depends on which type of Tamagotchi you got, is reached. The death screen shows a ghost besides a gravestone. And if the user maintained good quality care during the adult age, an additional animation will play showing the Tamagotchi laying an egg. Unfortunately, the egg is there only for decorative purposes, as you will not hatch the egg and you disappear after the animation ends. Teenager and child characters cannot lay an egg, and if a baby dies, then the animation is skipped completely. And I must say there's something here that really drew carries into the Digimon franchise as a whole. That sense of mystery, especially when you first start a device. Because as you open the device, there's really just a pulsating egg that you can see, that you can do nothing but observe. There's no way to interact with the egg. Then maybe a few minutes later you catch the egg hatching, or maybe you don't catch the egg hatching and you only see later on that you check, you see a strange blob creature, or maybe you only hear suddenly a call being made, a care call, and then you see the creature, a strange black blob creature that you can feed and play with, but there's really no information, it's just this strange blob creature. And the sprite work also does a lot for the device, especially when you consider how small the screen is and that the Tamagotchi can only take a fraction of the screen. The screen, for example, yes, the screen is like 16 pixels tall, but they are just a fraction of the screen size so that you can move around. And the sprite work here is just so good, especially when you think the initial experience that all users are going to have. We start with this mysterious egg that suddenly hatches and you can see this blob creature, and there's one evolution that every single user you see, and that's the evolution from the baby to the child Tamagotchi, because there's only one baby Tamagotchi and one child Tamagotchi. So the first evolution is here for all users, and they really went here for maximum contrast so that you will not miss the evolution, because you go from a small black blob to a big white blob. That means that even if you miss the evolution, you're going to see that something happened there, that there's something more to these creatures, that they can change the appearance, even if you don't know how. And the fact that it's just such a stark contrast, it means that even if you catch it later, you know that something happened. Well, that is at least in the Generation 1 model, because in the Generation 2 model, they decided for some reason to make it go from a small white blob to a slightly bigger white blob. In that model, I think there might be some inattentive people that have missed that the vpet had evolved because they didn't see the difference between the child and the baby Tamagotchi. The Tamagotchi would be more successful than what Wiz and Bandai had ever expected. But as they basked in that success, the gears had already been set in motion for the next hit. And this is where our journey truly begins. But because as Aki Maita said on that previously mentioned interview for Asia Week, they were already working on a new game. One she expected to be an even bigger hit than Tamagotchi, which is a sadly striking statement at the time, because the Tamagotchi had sold around 10 million units in Japan alone in just around 6 months. But this will be where we'll be leaving here for today. And since Akihiro Yokoi won't be as relevant going forward, I think that's the best place to leave this, but he ended up retiring in 2016 and now has a YouTube channel called Yokoi's Channel, where he talks about Tamagotchi. Link is in the description, but keep in mind that it's all in Japanese and without subtitles. And next time, you'll be checking the circumstances that led to the creation of the Digimon franchise as we tackle Digimon's first vpet, Digital Monster version 1.